Then we'll have time for a few questions. Secretary General.
Prime Minister Ciucă, Nicolae, it's great to see you again. Welcome to the NATO headquarters. You know these headquarters, you know NATO very well, but it's always a pleasure to meet with you and to discuss and to address the security challenges we face together in our alliance. Romania is a highly valued ally, and I greatly appreciate the important contributions you make to our shared security at this pivotal time. You host one of NATO's new battle groups in the Black Sea region. You lead by example on defense spending, and Romania hosts a key site for NATO's ballistic missile defense. I also welcome your diplomatic leadership to strengthen NATO, including by hosting a meeting of NATO foreign ministers in Bucharest next month. Today, we addressed Russia's brutal war of aggression against Ukraine. President Putin is failing on the battlefield. He is responding with more indiscriminate attacks on Ukrainian cities, against civilians and against critical infrastructure, and with dangerous nuclear rhetoric. We are also seeing Russia accuse Ukraine of preparing to use a radiological dirty bomb. This is absurd. Allies reject this blatantly false accusation, and Russia must not use false pretexts to escalate the war further. NATO will not be intimidated or deterred from supporting Ukraine's right to self-defense for as long as it takes. Every week, Ukraine's forces are getting stronger and better equipped. At the same time, we continue to strengthen our own defenses. We are reinforcing NATO's presence from the Black to the Baltic Sea. Fighter jets from Canada help to keep your skies safe, and thousands of French, Dutch, Belgian and US troops are in Romania to deter aggression. These deployments send a clear message. NATO is ready to defend Romania and all other allies. Today, we addressed the situation in the Black Sea region, which is of vital strategic importance to NATO. 3 allies are littoral states, as are our close partners Ukraine and Georgia. Russia's war has turned parts of the Black Sea into a war zone. Missiles fired by Russian warships in the Black Sea have hit Ukrainian towns. And for months, Russian forces blocked Ukrainian ports, causing the worst global food crisis in years. We urge Russia to renew the UN grain deal brokered by Turkey and ensure the continued supply of food to those who need it most. So, Prime Minister, thank you again for Romania's many contributions to NATO. I look forward to being in Bucharest in just a few weeks' time. So once again, welcome. It's a great honor to have you here, and please have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary General. I do appreciate our meeting today. I am very glad to be back in Brussels. Less than a year, we have discussions in the same format, and I do really very much appreciate the robust conversation we had on the issues very important for our alliance. We discussed the security threats and challenges in the Black Sea region, recognized as an area of strategic importance for the alliance by NATO's new strategic concept. Security in the region continues to be affected by Russia's illegal war of aggression against Ukraine. We have expressed concern about the far-reaching effects that Russia's aggressive and irresponsible behavior may have on regional and Euro-Atlantic security and global stability in the long term. Given the high dynamics of these developments, as well as the unpredictability of Russia's behavior, We have stressed the need for NATO to continue to closely monitor the situation in the Black Sea. This war shows that Romania has long maintained the strategic relevance of the Black Sea for NATO, for the alliance's major security interests. Thus, the implementation of the decision adopted in Madrid for the firm and sustainable strengthening of the Allied posture, including on the eastern flank and in our country, is crucial. The creation of the French-led battle group, to which military contingents from the Netherlands and Belgium are also contributing, is a concrete expression of these decisions and concrete proof of the solidarity and unity that characterizes our alliance. I take advantage on this opportunity to thank to France, Netherlands, and Belgium for their involvement and solidarity, and of course to thank United States for their presence in Romania. We appreciate the active role and substantial involvement of the Secretary General in taking visionary decisions in support of the Euro-Atlantic security, and I encourage the continuation of these efforts in the coming period to implement the decisions taken. Full implementation of all that Allied leaders have decided is an absolute priority. Strengthening the deterrence and defense posture of NATO as a whole in a unified and coherent manner is essential if the alliance is to respond promptly and effectively to all the threats it faces. We have underlined the importance of continued support and assistance to Ukraine. We also reiterated our support for Ukraine's Euro-Atlantic integration, which we had pledged at the 2008 Bucharest summit. I also stressed that the Republic of Moldova and Georgia, our most vulnerable partners as a result of Russia's war against Ukraine, need also our support. In this regard, I presented Romania's decision to contribute financially to the NATO voluntary funds dedicated to these countries with 1.3 million US dollars, 400,000 US dollars for Ukraine, 600,000 US dollars for the Republic of Moldova, and 300,000 US dollars for Georgia. All these contributions are a practical reflection of the special importance that Romania consistently attaches to NATO partnership policy. Romania remains fully committed to fulfilling all its obligations and will continue to be a responsible and active contributor to promoting Euro-Atlantic security and stability. Increasing the defense budget to 2.5% of GDP is a concrete step in this direction in the spirit of allied solidarity. I also mentioned the importance of the forthcoming NATO Foreign Affairs Ministerial meeting, which we will host in Bucharest at the end of November this year. The decision to host this event in Romania is a recognition of the active role, relevance, and appreciation that our country enjoys within NATO. I thank the Secretary General once again for today's discussion and wish to reiterate our commitment to continue our substantive dialogue and effective cooperation in pursuing our common goals related to the security of the Euro-Atlantic area. Thank you very much again, sir.
We have time for a couple of questions. We'll start with Romanian television. Tevere.
Hello, my name is Vlad Ungar, news reporter, Romanian Public Television. My first question is for Secretary General. How will the war in Ukraine evolve in the near future? Will it have ended by the end of the next year, or will the war freeze in this stage?
Wars are by nature unpredictable, but what we have seen over the last weeks and months is actually that the Ukrainians have made significant gains. They have been able to, first of all, push back the Russian invading forces from the north, from the territory around Kiev, and then halt the Russian offensive in Donbass, and actually then push back the forces, liberate territory in Kharkiv and in Donbass, and also now in the south. And this is, of course, a great example of the bravery, the courage of the Ukrainian armed forces, and we pay great respect to them, the people of Ukraine, the political leadership of Ukraine, and their armed forces. But of course, the support from NATO allies and partners have been also vital for the progress, the successes we have seen the Ukrainians have been able to make over the last weeks and months. Let me add that the war didn't start in February this year. The war started in 2014. That was when President Putin illegally annexed Crimea and started to control eastern part of Donbass. What happened in February was a full-scale escalation, a full-scale war aggression by Russia against Ukraine. I will not speculate about how long the war will last. I will only say two things, and one is that we are ready to support Ukraine for as long as it takes. We cannot allow President Putin to win. That will be a disaster, a tragedy for the Ukrainians, but it will also make us, NATO allies, more vulnerable, because then the lesson learned from Ukraine for President Putin is that he can achieve his goals by using military force. And that will be a lesson learned not only for him, but also for other authoritarian leaders around the world. The second message is that most wars ends at the negotiating table. And at the same time, we know that what Ukraine can achieve at the negotiating table is totally dependent on the strength on the battlefield. So we need to strengthen their hand on the negotiating table by providing a military support. And that's exactly what NATO allies are doing to maximize the likelihood for an outcome which is acceptable for Ukraine, and to minimize the time before we get there, because the stronger Ukraine is on the battlefield, the more likely it is that we'll have a political solution that ensures that Ukraine prevails as a sovereign, independent nation in Europe.
Okay, we'll go to Euronews. Here. Just behind you. Thanks.
Mr. Secretary, you said recently NATO will help Finland and Sweden if they are threatened. What are the alliance's worries?
Sorry?
What are the alliance's worries about Finland and Sweden, considering the delay of Finland and Sweden joining in the context of Hungary's oppositions?
So first of all NATO allies, all 30 NATO allies, made an historic decision in June this year at the Madrid summit to invite Finland and Sweden to become NATO allies. And then we signed the accession protocols, all 30 NATO allies. And now 28 allies have already ratified the accession protocol. So far, this has been the fastest, the quickest accession process in NATO's modern history. There were only weeks from Finland and Sweden applied in May to we invited them and signed the accession protocol, and already 28 have ratified in the national parliaments. Recently, also Hungary made it clear that they will also that the ratification is on the agenda of the parliament this fall. And of course, I welcome that Finland, Sweden and Turkey are working together to implement the joint memorandum they agreed on the margins of the Madrid summit to step up efforts to fight international terrorism. Sweden has made it clear that there are there are no restrictions on arms exports to Turkey, and they have established what we call a permanent mechanism, a way to work even more closely together on the exchange of information on intelligence to support efforts on fighting international terrorism. So I'm confident that all allies will ratify the accession protocol. I also welcome the fact that Finland and Sweden are in close contact with Turkey. The Swedish Prime Minister was recently here. We, of course, discussed the accession process, and he will go to Turkey to meet with President Erdogan. I will go to Ankara, or to Turkey, to Istanbul, to meet with President Erdogan in the near future myself. So we are in close contact with Finland and Sweden, and also, of course, in close contact at all levels with our close ally, Turkey. Then what I said, and is still my message, is that Finland and Sweden are in a very different place now than before they applied. Because what we have seen since then is that allies have issued security assurances to Finland and Sweden as part of the whole accession process. We have more NATO presence in the Baltic region, in the region around Finland and Sweden. Finland and Sweden participate in NATO activities, civilian, military, and of course, if there were any kind of pressure against Finland and Sweden, it is inconceivable that the NATO allies should just stand idle by and not react. So we will react if there is any kind of pressure against Finland and Sweden.
Associated Press.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary General, Mr. Prime Minister. Mark from Associated Press. Mr. Secretary General, how has the Turkish government reacted to the new government in Sweden concerning their approach on reaching an understanding with Turkey concerning the accession to NATO? And Mr. Prime Minister, have you had any negotiations with Hungary, your neighbor, concerning the delay in the process of them approving Finland and Sweden? Have you taken part of any negotiations with your neighbor? Thank you.
It is broad political support in Sweden for becoming a NATO ally. The decision by the Swedish Parliament was there was an overwhelming majority in support of the accession application, and both the previous and the current government is, of course, very committed to implementing the trilateral agreement that was made between Turkey, Finland and Sweden at the NATO summit. I welcome the very clear message from Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson and the new government to work hard on implementing the agreement and to ensure that there is ratification by all allies as soon as possible. I welcome the close contact between Stockholm and Ankara, President Erdogan and Prime Minister Kristersson, and I also know that Sweden is at different diplomatic and political levels in close contact with Turkey. So this is, of course, strongly supported by me. I will go to Turkey myself in the near future, and we do this to ensure that as soon as possible, 30 allies would have ratified the accession protocol, enabling Finland and Sweden to become full members of the alliance.
Romania has understood from the very beginning the relevance of Sweden and Finland to become member of the alliance, and we value from the very beginning how more capabilities they bring within the alliance. So we ratify the agreement from the very beginning of the process. And of course, right now, specifically, we are not discussing with our neighboring country, Hungary, in regard to clarify how we can support on this decision. But we are always discussing with the Secretary General, with the NATO headquarters, and if necessary, we are open to be part of this process. So, answering your question, till now, we did not talk specifically on this issue.
Thank you very much. This concludes this press conference.
Thank you so much.